225. Curtis, can you do that?
Rise, please. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for this committee meeting we're having. And Lord Jesus, just give us guidance, direct us, and bless this meeting and be with us as we continue through the meetings today. We just ask your blessings on this meeting. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Roll call, please.
Sir. Dick White.
Here.
Harley Buzzard.
Here.
Jack Baker.
Here.
Julia Coates.
Here.
Joe Bird.
On in.
Jody Fishinghawk. Janelle Fulbright. John Garvin. Frankie Hargis.
Present.
China Glory Jordan. Lee Keener.
On in.
Curtis Snell.
Here.
Janice Taylor. David Thornton.
On in.
Victoria Vasquez. David Walkenstick. Kara Callan Watts.
Honey. We do have a quorum.
Thank you. Ask for approval of minutes.
Make a motion to be approved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Reports, Marcia Lane.
Afternoon.
Afternoon.
I just have a couple of things to go over, and then I take the questions. I have sent today, Gail, a list of all the clothing vouchers that we have taken and encoded, and by county. And because that's the only way I can do it. I can't do it by district. But keep in mind that these are not the final counts. This will be just as of today, because it takes us time to encode them. And so we'll get that final count to you. But we took about 7,200 applications. And I want to say from my staff that participated in this, a thank you to all of those council members that fed them and brought water and everything. You do not know how much that's appreciated, because they do not get lunch break. They just keep working. And we really, really appreciate that. We're still working on the veterans trip. We don't have a final count for that. We're concentrating on World War II, and I believe we'll probably have around 10. And I think that's we're getting a lot of no's because they've already been on the honor flight, and veterans want another veteran honored. If they have been honored once, they do not want to be honored again. And or they're just not able to go, because you're talking about 80 and 90-year-old people. So as of right now, we have 8 confirmed with about 4 or 5 interest. And so anyway, that's the count as of right now. I'll take any questions.
Julia?
Yes, thank you. Mine is a quick question. Is rental assistance under you, or is it under?
No, ma'am, it's back at housing.
Okay, so Gary would be the person.
Yes, at one point it was, but
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay. Kara?
Thank you. I want to say thank you to your staff for Collinsville and Claremore. It's greatly appreciated on the clothing vouchers.
Good.
And thanks for these numbers as well. And did I read it correctly, those 2 sites that are not included, right?
they're probably
in the
not,
breakout
they're
numbers.
probably not
Okay.
encoded.
Do we have a Rogers County Elder Advocate, Rogers County, Tulsa County Elder Advocate
It's in the
yet?
process.
Okay. So when that's done, then you'll announce to us to make sure we
I
have
will
the
give you a
information.
date of everybody.
Okay, very good. That's it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank your staff for the school vouchers. Did a good job.
Well, we're still getting referrals. There's a lot of need out there, and we work extra hard when kids are involved. So, thank you.
Good job, Marcia.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ron?
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
I asked Tammy to be here this afternoon to give you all a little update on some of the activities that CCOs had this summer. And so you have it.
Okay, well, basically, we had our annual conference in May. I know that some of you did attend that. It was very successful. We had around 292 people that attended that from community organizations. About 56 of those were communities within the 14 counties, and 22 were satellite community organizations from the at-large. And so we had a wonderful conference this year. And with our volunteer program, we had a large group come in June and July, and they worked here in Cherokee and Adair County doing projects for people that were disabled, veterans, elders, and building handicap ramps, painting homes, roofing houses. So we are very appreciative of the people that come in and do their volunteer work for us. So those are just a couple of things we've done this summer.
Good to see you.
Any questions?
Kara?
I have questions, but it's not around, I'm sorry, what is the name of Ricotta now?
Community and cultural outreach.
Outreach, CCO.
Yes.
So CCO, I don't have any questions. Tammy, thanks for all the hard work. I enjoyed the conference. I thought it was well put together.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Qualls, I have questions for you. But I want to make sure, no one else raised their hand around CCO's report, right?
Julia's next.
So I will waive mine so Tammy can be seated after questions, but I think Julia has questions. So then I'll come back to Ron if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was glad to hear you say 22 community organizations, because in the report it says 24.
Yes.
And the table here, and what appeared in the book last month as well, which is the same table, has a duplication of 2 organizations, and it has an organization listed that went defunct 5 years ago. So I was wondering.
Right. It was
yeah.
just a typo because we
Right.
had 22 representatives there
Right.
from the at-large.
So I would just, to be a little more
Accurate.
accurate, I don't like to say that things are being padded, because I'm sure that's not the case, but I think it was just carelessness.
Okay. We will be
But I'm
sure
glad
next
that you clarified it in your report. I do have questions about how the picnic dates are set, the ones that are set throughout the year. Are those set by the chief's office, or how are those dates
Well,
selected?
basically, I know that we've got a meeting set up in the early part of September with the offices and the departments that will be taking part in that. So we're going to work very diligently to get the calendar done quickly. And so I know that I was invited to that, and there's been several other departments that have been invited to get that calendar set up for the year.
Is there some sort of opposition to including Jack and I in the creation of that calendar? Because that has not happened for the last 2 to 3 years. It used to always happen. We don't even get notification of it when dates change or anything like that. And so I just wondered, are we simply, as the representatives of the constituents, are we just not on the radar? Or is there a way that we could be included? Because, these are the dates that are the one time of year when we are able to meet with lots and lots and lots of our constituents. And these dates frequently get set at times when there are conflicts for us, and we've not been consulted. For years, we've not been consulted.
Okay. Well, basically, I can ask, the invitation came from the Secretary of State's office to me, so I will be happy to address that and see if we can't do that.
I would appreciate that very, very much. There are 2 new organizations, I understand.
2 new organizations. for
At-large
the-
organizations?
I know that there are a couple that have requested and that they are working with the CNCA. I don't think anything is formal yet, but I know that there are a couple that are definitely wanting to become satellite, but there's nothing formal yet.
Because I'm seeing on Facebook, again, announcements of meetings, and everybody come, in both Chicago and in Washington, where they're being called satellite organizations of the Cherokee Nation. And again, as their representatives, we have no no knowledge of this. And I know that in the past, in forming these organizations, that it's very, very difficult for people in a region who don't even know each other to be in touch with each other. So there's always been a need for the Cherokee Nation itself to be involved in helping those organizations form. So I'm presuming it's the same situation here, that, as you just said,
Yes.
CNCA or CCO, somebody is involved in helping them to form.
Correct.
And again, I would just ask that as a courtesy, since we are their representatives, that we be kept in the loop at least about the organization, about the groups, about the process and so forth, so that we can also be in touch with them. Because it's a very valuable
Yes.
thing for us as well.
Sure. Yes, but I do know that both of those are working, try to work through the CNCA to become.
Okay, well, then, Mr. Qualls, I guess I'll make that request of you, since we are advisory members to that board, and since you are on that board, that we would be kept in the loop as advisory members of CNCA. I appreciate that very much. Are there any social media activities or policies that CCO has for the employees of the program, or any that you're aware of?
I don't know of any policies in place
Okay.
right now.
Okay.
We do have to go through communications for most of the media.
Yeah. Well, on social media, I recently was informed about a remark that was made by an employee of CCO that could be interpreted as kind of throwing one of the at-large community organizations under the bus, so I just wanted to.
Okay.
And I do see very political remarks sometimes by employees of CCO. So I just wondered if there was any kind of policy.
None that I'm aware of, but we'll check into that.
Okay, okay. Those are my questions. I very much appreciate your responses. Thank you, Mr. Lay.
Kara?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have questions for you now, Tammy. So, as well as my questions to Ron. So there is two new at-large groups forming, and it's Washington DC and Chicago potentially?
Potentially, yes.
Okay. Do we have a current list of upcoming meetings and such that we can send out? I'm
For
getting
the
direct
two of
feedback
them?
only from the groups about meetings coming up,
Right.
but I don't think any of us are
Meeting
being
dates get
informed.
changed, we aren't informed,
Okay, you're talking about the calendar for the annual meetings
Yep.
now?
for the picnic dates.
Yes, we can definitely send you an update.
Could you email that to us by the end of the day, where we're
Yes.
at with it? Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions for CCO before I move on to Ron and some other?
David had a question. I don't know who it was for.
Are you through?
For CCO, yes, David.
Ron, I've been kind of looking for a resolution on a used Katrina travel trailer to be donated to the Taylor family. And I thought, is that going to come through very soon, or where is that?
I wasn't aware that it was going to come through this committee. I think it should have, but I think it went through or was going to go through a different committee.
Okay. Can you find out, let me
Sure.
know so I can?
I think I can find out today.
Thank you very much.
David. Mr. Chairman, I guess we're done with CCO. May I resume my questions?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I noticed in the paper, there was a picture with the Delaware chief, Pechonik, on a water line in Welch. And then somebody asked me about an agreement for water compacts on water lines. And I understand we have a solid relationship with Delaware's, in my opinion, where it's very contractually defined and there's agreements. So I'm excited about it, but I couldn't answer the questions that people were posing because they were asking if we had agreements now with the Delaware's for IHS water line money, sanitation, sewage. And then they asked about the Katua ban. So what has happened, what hasn't happened, what might be in the works with those two nations?
I don't know that is Billy Hicks back there anywhere? Billy and his staff have been working, began working with the Delaware. I don't think we've had any meetings with the Katuas yet, but every tribe that's in this jurisdictional area, whether they have a land base or not, can receive additional funding from IHS. It's called priority points. And we are working with the Delawares in an effort to receive additional funding from IHS.
Okay, I'd like to know more about that. I don't know if it's next meeting or if it's something you can follow up with in writing.
Okay.
And I would be concerned, I guess, from the AG's point of view, since we're in litigation over jurisdiction of the Katua Band. It's already been litigated with Delaware's, and we have an agreement. There's something there. But we don't with Katua Band. We're making we're saying our sovereignty is supreme. So I don't know what that does from that perspective if we start entering into agreements.
Well-
And what I'm hearing from you is that we're even looking at it, which concerns me.
Well, we haven't met with them on this, but
Okay.
it's something that could provide additional funding. It's not a jurisdictional issue, it's a funding issue from IHS.
Has the AG's office been consulted on this before there's any action taken?
Oh, well, sure, we'll consult with them. We don't have anything in writing.
I think Elizabeth is here for the AG's office, and it looks like she may have a comment on that. Could you help me understand the process that we would go through to make sure that we don't step into something we shouldn't?
I mean, they definitely come through us when there's an agreement. That magnitude. I don't know about the Delaware one. I've heard that there was one having to do with points, funding and all of that, and there was a discussion with the UKB, but that has not gone forward. There is no agreement with the UKB.
Could you look further into all of this and get back with me? Offline. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Pauls. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Anything?
Yeah, that concerns me. Also, just what Councilor Watts has brought up there, Ron, because tribal priority points, I realize are granted to each tribe. But as many years I've worked with the water and sanitation program, the tribal priority points are not allocated to other tribes, as far as I understand. Because if you were a UKB member, you always come to the Cherokee Nation for water and sanitation. Even now, even today, that's how I understand this to be. The other thing is the MOU with the Delawares. We'll get back into something else here in a little bit, but it's like the tribal priority points awarded to those tribes, and it goes back to the roads program. UKB is asking for 50% of those transit dollars. I don't think they deserve it because it should be based on the tribal priority points also. The other thing is IRR roads, they're also putting those on the IRR system through the Bureau. It brings into question, whose jurisdictional boundaries are we working under? So I would advise this body to watch this very carefully, that we don't get into something that's going to give more of our sovereignty away. Now, I realize with the Delaware, we do have an memorandum of understanding about housing, but I didn't know anything about the water lines or anything like that. So that concerns me as far as jurisdictional boundaries, how we're going to work that out as far as sovereignty issues go. I would certainly check into that, and I have a question for Michael when it comes up about our transit problems now to see where that is with the AG's office on that. And you may know the question, you may know the answer to the question. There was over $500,000 that was allocated out to transit. I don't know if we've got that money yet or not. The last I talked to Michael, the last report I heard from him, that was still in negotiations with the Bureau.
Yes, that's correct.
Is that where it is yet? So this concerns me about other governments coming in and taking over your water and sanitation program within the jurisdiction boundaries. So anyway, I have cautious to make sure we look at with the IHS.
Absolutely. Certainly, there's nothing that's going to be given away by this nation. Again, our issue is additional funding. It's not a jurisdiction.
Would it be additional funding to the Cherokee Nation?
I think Mr. Hicks just came in, or you wanted to confer with him?
Yes, if I understand, you had a question about the agreement we have with the Delaware Tribe and the water and sanitation projects we're doing with them. A couple of years ago, we decided that we would try to enter into a cooperative agreement with the Delawares concerning some of our water and sanitation projects. Each year when we submit projects to Indian Health Service, each tribe is allowed to prioritize 4 projects and apply additional points to those projects and get them further up the list and increase the likelihood that they will get funded through Indian Health Service. So what we did was reach an agreement with the Delawares on projects that are up in that area, Washington County, Rogers County, and Nowata County. And so what we've done is we have taken some of those projects and we have allowed them to sponsor them to Indian Health Service and put their tribal priority points with them. Now, if the projects are funded, such as the case was in Oshaleta, the money comes through our compact. We manage the project and oversee the project, and basically we just do it as a cooperative agreement with the Delawares in order to get projects funded in their area.
So we're using their tribal priority points?
Yes, yes.
Now, are they awarded tribal priority points for that particular project, for those projects also?
The way I understand it, hardly any tribe that's federally recognized is allowed by Indian Health Service to sponsor projects and make 4 projects their priority on the SDS system through IHS.
Would they come through the Cherokee Nation to do those? Can they submit those projects themselves?
If we were to reach some sort of an agreement with them, then yes, we could do the same thing with the UKB that we've done with the Delawares.
All right, that answers my question. Thank you.
So at this point, we have an agreement with the Delawares.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and we're leveraging our sovereignty. They come through us on how the monies are spent.
Basically, what we have done, the communities up in the area have come to us,
Okay.
and we have gone back to the Delawares to say, we've got some projects in your area. Would you like to help us sponsor them and increase the likelihood that we could get funding for them? And they've said yes, and we have taken those projects, jointly sponsored them with the Delaware Tribe, put them on the list to IHS, and been able to get some of them funded in that way.
Okay. We, at this time, do not have any type of agreement in place with the UKB.
No, sir, not at this time.
Well, anytime we can leverage our sovereignty and help our neighboring tribes, and yet we're the managers, that's not a bad deal. Correct?
Certainly not in my book.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Good report. Gary Cooper.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Man, it's been a busy month. Lots of things going on. Negotiated rulemaking, we're in the middle of that whole process. We had our 5th session of the committee meeting the end of July. Have one more session the end of this month. That will be the last session for the fiscal year. We've been able to get some things done and have been able to come to a mutual understanding on a couple of items, which I think is good. So I think we're making progress, a lot more progress than in meeting 4, 5, and 6 than we did before that time. This is an important time for us. This has to do with the funding formula. So it is very important, and I think that we are we're coming along pretty good. I'm, of course, a committee member. I also serve, we have 2 groups. One is needs. One is FCAS, or Formula Current Assisted Stock, which are the 2 sides of the NAHASTA formula. This last meeting, the chair of needs had to step down, and they asked me to serve as chair. So I did do that. We also, in the needs work group, formed a study group this was a concept that we had agreed to, I think, about 2 meetings ago, that we would spend no more than 12 months as a study group exploring all available data sources to see where the data can come from and make a recommendation back to the committee. We formed a study group. The study group consists of one committee member from each of HUD's 6 regions and then one HUD representative. So there's 7 members of this study group. We had our first, and I don't know if I was just crazy enough not to say no to him or what the deal was, but I also got conned into chairing that study group. But anyway, we had our first study group conference call today. We came up with a plan, came up with an agenda, came up with a bunch of other things in the course of about, I didn't know I was that tough a person, no. But we came up with a lot of things, so whenever we come to our next negotiated rulemaking committee and sit down at the table, we will have some stuff to go through, some stuff to discuss, and be able to hopefully get some things done. Also, something I do want to be sure to mention is 2 weeks ago, right before Congress went into recess, the reauthorization, the NAHASTA reauthorization passed out of House Financial Services. It cleared out of that committee with strong bipartisan support. It passed 47 to 11. So we have seen bills passed out of both committees in both houses. So we hope that maybe whenever they come back from recess that we'll see some movement on the bills, and also that they'll get to conference pretty quick. Last week, as most of you know, I serve as a board member on the National American Indian Housing Council for our region, and I also, on that group, am chair of the legislative committee. So the chairwoman, who is newly elected, was elected in June, and myself, as the chair of the legislative committee, had planned on meetings last week that we had planned them before Congress had went into recess. But it was a good time. We was able to meet with a lot of staff, a lot of folks, both over on the legislative side, also on the administrative side. So we were able to have a lot of discussions, and we are pretty well, it looks promising that we could possibly, won't cross my fingers, but not too much, but we could possibly see a reauthorization bill before the end of the year. It was, it'd been nice to have seen it about this time last year, but hey, we'll live with what we can get. Other than that, I think everything else is moving right along. You have a report. I also want to be sure to mention college housing applications for the College Housing Assistance Program. We're taking those again. I mentioned it last month. I want to be sure to mention it again. We'll take applications through the 15th of the month. We will accept late applications, assuming that we still have spots available. So if someone calls you on the 16th and say, "Hi, I forgot to turn my application," and have them go ahead and send it to us, we won't automatically deny it, but we will hold on to it. And if we can make it work, we certainly will. So with that, I think that's all I have, unless anyone has any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 75 homes completed today as of your report. Did I read it correctly?
If you're asking to date, I'm going to have to say no, because that report would have been through the end of June.
Date as of this report, so.
As of the report, yeah, but I think we had 7 new ones move in on last week.
So that will be not reflected then, or it will be reflected in the next report?
Well, if it was last week, I think it would be the report after next. That's what gets confusing, is because the reports are due at the end of the month, so it's almost 2 full months behind. So you have a June report in front of you for August meeting.
I thought I'd sent an email, but maybe I didn't. I'd like a tour, and I think Councilman Keener was interested in what we've got going on in our area in Rogers and Tulsa County.
I don't believe that I received an email on that.
So if possible, come up and visit.
Yeah, I can do some checking. I don't want to commit to too much because they are on individuals' land. You know.
Chief came to our Chamber of Commerce and acted like we weren't interested, so he gets some kind of tour. We would like a tour of the same courtesy.
I haven't given him a tour. I can say that, especially up in that area. I mean, I'm not saying someone couldn't drive down the road and say, oh, look, they're out there building houses. Let's stop in there and look. And absolutely, I'm just you know, if you make a request, you know, we'll see what we can do and see if we can accommodate. Just some of them, I'm a little, you know, I don't want to commit to too much because, you know, if folks are staying right there next door in a trailer house, it might be a little bit inconvenient for them.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Julia?
Thank you. Is rental assistance under you?
Yes, ma'am, it is. And I'm sorry, I had that in the back of my head that I was going to see if you had a question about that.
I do. I have a constituent who is presently living in Wichita, but who made application for rental assistance last April, I believe, because she is desiring to move into the boundaries. She's needing some extensive medical health care.
Okay.
She's heard nothing whatsoever. My suspicion is that you have to live in the boundaries first
No.
before you can apply
No.
for rental assistance.
No, that's not true.
Can you tell me what the process is then? And
Yeah, and actually, probably what we need to do is whenever we're done offline, I need to get her name
Okay.
from you so I can check on it.
Okay.
Because that usually is, and usually there's about a anywhere from 4 to 6 month wait. But if they're elderly, handicapped, and disabled, there is not a waiting list because they automatically jump to the top of any waiting
some
list.
medical issues that she's
Yeah.
needing help
Yeah.
with. And
Now I'm guessing that there's a few underlying issues that maybe we don't know about, so we can check and see.
Okay.
But usually, no, they can live anywhere, and she may have automatically got an update packet said, hey, we're ready. You know, when do you want to do this? And she might have said, wait just a second. And they may have told her, you know, hey, if you're elderly, handicapped, or disabled, it's really not going to matter when you come in and apply because we'll be able to help you right then.
What she told me was that she put the application in April, and it's just been silent since then. So we'll get
You
it
give me her
straightened out.
name, and I can find out in the course
Very
of
good.
just a few minutes.
Okay, I appreciate it, Gary.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Harley?
Yeah. Gary, I know I've talked to you about this before on negotiated rulemaking.
Yes.
On census data, are you still using tribal census data for allocations, or have you got that changed, or you can't change it?
That is what we're looking at. That is the whole thing. Okay, what we have agreed to do as a committee is keep everything status quo for now. The work group has 12 months to look at all data sources. If we cannot find a better data source or another data source to use by the end of that period, then census data will be used, or the American Community Survey, which is the current census data. Because they don't do the decennial census anymore. It's you know, and it depends on who you talk to, what you hear, you know, as far as what's better.
Not about the tribes use their census.
I wouldn't say that. Now, as far as over on the housing side, one of the biggest parts is being consistent across the entire country. That's one of the big things that we have, because we anything that we put forward is by consensus. So we have to have the support of 26 committee members, 24 tribal reps, and 2 members of HUD to go forward. And, you know, small tribes, medium tribes, and large tribes from every region. So if only a few tribes have that information available to them, it would be really hard to get that pushed through.
And that's been a problem for years.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, and also, you know, that brings up another point, just to mention, you know, used to they did the decennial census. Now they do the American Community Survey. So it's ongoing. They survey so many families each and every year. So they're basically doing the long form, so many of them each year. So just kind of as a reminder, it's very important that you continue to let your folks know that it is important for them, especially on maybe if one is Cherokee and one isn't, that the Cherokee fill it out as head of household, because that is very important. You know, on the flip side of that, census tells us that they have somewhere in the mid-90s, and they've given us the exact number, and I couldn't quote it, but somewhere in the mid-90 return both across the U.S. on the ACS forms, but also in Indian country, that they have a high rate of return on those forms.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Good, bad, or indifferent, I don't know.
Any housing starts, no water, Washington County?
Yeah, absolutely. And if y'all want to, I can just roll through the list, and whenever y'all hear your county called, y'all can jot it down.
Okay.
Nowata. We have 16 houses going up right now. Craig County, I have 6. Ottawa County, I have 2. Rogers County, I have 20. Tulsa County, I have 1. Washington County, 5. Sequoia County, 31. McIntosh County, 2. Muskogee County, 5. Delaware County, 13. Mays County, wait just a second on those. I need to correct a couple of those numbers. Let's back up to Muskogee County. Muskogee County is actually 14. Delaware County is 28. Mays County is 16. Cherokee County is 35. My favorite county of all, Adair County. No, is 15. I just say that because Frankie's always after me.
And we're not your favorite if we only have 15.
Well, that's because you got so many before. No.
Whatever.
I can't win for losing. I'm telling you. And
That's a wealthy county.
I'm hoping here in just probably within the next month we'll have 3 going up in Wagner County. So if my math serves me right, that will be house building going on in all 14 counties.
And that's ground's been scraped off, somebody's got a hammer doing something, right?
I'm not going to go as in most cases. In most cases, that is correct.
At least site visit.
But no, they are at least we are proceeding with construction. We have paper in hand that says they are ready. That we're doing construction and that they're expected to be done within 6 months.
How many is that total now?
I am pretty sure 194.
242.
When I see the ground being scraped off and concrete being laid and those hammers going, that's when I say a house is being built, Gary.
Well,
It started.
and I say, well, yeah. And whenever we got something in hand that says we got money set aside to pay this contract, either a PO or whatever it is that we're using to get the job done, is usually whenever we count it. But I understand what you're saying, and I think that you might be surprised if you haven't been to a couple of those sites up there, that they may be a little bit further along
All right.
than even what you mentioned right there.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Anybody else?
Getting better.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Michael Lynn. Michael's hiding back there. Couldn't find him.
Good afternoon. I believe you have our report. It's a couple of projects, or a few projects that I want to mention. The Cherokee Nation Industrial Park south of Stillwell, we have bid out. I believe I mentioned that last month. We had a pre-bid meeting on that last week. Had a fairly good showing of contractors, and we will open bids on that on August 26th. One unique item about that project is we have in the plans to install overhead lighting. And actually, it's going to be solar overhead lighting. There'll be solar powered, no electrical wires going to those. So that is something unique that we've never included on a project before, but we felt like it was going to be a good idea for this industrial park area over there with people traveling in and out of there different times of the day, so. Secondly, I want to mention the Sequoia High School intersection. I don't know if you guys have passed through there or not, but there's a lot of construction going on up there right now. We had hoped to get that project going earlier in the summer, but that didn't happen, and but the contractor is moving fast and furious up there. He realizes that when school is starting, school starts up there on the 13th. They did place curb over the weekend and should be placing, they had hoped to be placing asphalt, at least the first lift of asphalt today or tomorrow. I haven't got an update as of today to find out if they did that or not, but they are working as fast as they can to get that open. There is alternative routes into the Sequoia High School and the Child Development Centers that are to be used in the event that this isn't back open. They are working on Saturdays, and we've allowed them to also start working on Sundays, and they've been utilizing both Saturdays and Sundays to work on that. The utilities, we are moving utilities on on 10 Killer School Road. We opened water line bids on that last week. That's just one of the utilities that is progressing. The other utilities either are moved or in the process of being moved. And lastly, I want to mention Northeast Fort Gibson. That's a project in between Cherokee and Muskogee counties, crosses over both counties. We have been acquiring right-of-way on that project. We've met with approximately 75% of the landowners on there, and we've got about 5 people that have signed. We've got a lot of people that we've got to go back and meet with, and still we've got some folks that we've still got yet to meet with. So I do have a bit of bad news on that project. We're going ahead and pressing on. However, I was notified on August 4th from our Environmental Protection Department that they did another American burrowing beetle survey out there, and they did find a beetle. So one beetle to my knowledge. That's all I'm aware of anyhow. That's the second beetle that we found on there. We found one 2 years ago. We went a year without finding one, and we've got one now. We're going to press on with right-of-way acquisition, cross our fingers, and hope that we don't find one again.
When's the best time to dig for beetles?
You probably have to ask Mr. Elkins that question. I'm not a beetle expert.
You guys aren't digging at the right time or something.
But the fact that we found a beetle does prohibit any construction within the next 12 or so months. The season that they can test is May through September. And even that, there's some temperature and weather stipulations. They can't just start to May 1st if the weather stipulations aren't accurate or aren't there. So, but typically it's May through September. Those are the items I wanted to mention this afternoon. I'd be glad to answer any questions, Mr. Chair.
Sorry to interrupt you. Walter.
Oh no.
Time and stick.
On that beetle, can't you do the bait away, or will they not let you do that?
It's my understanding that they don't allow that any longer. As far as they used to be able to do the bait away, yes, ma'am, but I don't think that's allowed any longer.
So because somebody has a dead animal out there, and the beetles come for the carcass,
Right.
you're prohibited from moving forward for 12 months.
Yes.
Are they doing that on the state highway projects now too?
ODOT's is handled a little different. They pay money into a conservation bank. The Cherokee Nation, my understanding, has looked into that. I think it's some details are still yet to be worked out with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, who is the beetle police, so to speak. I do think they are trying to work out some details. At least they have been in the past couple of years, but I don't know where we're at on that.
Well, did you find that on the Cherokee County side or the Muskogee County side?
I do not have that information.
Because on Muskogee, we'll proceed ahead. on the Cherokee side. Our people want to go forward.
I understand.
That was the meeting that we had about a month ago.
That's the very meeting we had a month or so
It
ago.
was a huge turnout, probably what? I got the list of.
I'd 75 to 100 people probably.
Yeah, I'd say 100 people was there.
Yeah.
There was a lot of interest in that road.
A lot.
The other road I wanted to ask you about was the Hulbert Lost City. Now, are we going from Hulbert through, or is Hulbert Lost City, is it starting at Hulbert, or at one time it was starting down the road from Hobart?
It's starting at the end, at the junction, roughly at the junction of Grace Hudlin or,
Well, that's a misnomer then. I thought
It
we was
is.
gonna back up and go to Hobart.
it is misleading. I will agree to that. It's just something that I don't know where the name came from, but it is going from Grace Hudlin, what's that, north towards Lost City.
So you're going from the middle to the middle?
Yes. That'd be accurate.
Can we do something about the beginning point? Seriously, I mean, in all seriousness, why are we not providing for the first 4 miles? I thought we were gonna do a count for Indians within that first 4 miles. Did we not ever do that?
I know you and I have talked about it quite some time ago. I'd have to go back and look and see. There was the data that we have for those first few miles leading outside of Hobart. I'll look at that and see and get with you and let you know.
And I'm assuming, I don't know why we're calling these roads like this, but is Lost City Road the Grace Hudlin Road around to the highway?
No, that Lost City Road takes it all the way to Pegs.
Okay, then is the Hobart Lost City project the Grace Hudlin Road?
No. Okay, now you're getting me confused.
Okay, here's what you got. You got Hobart Lost City,
Yes.
and then you got Lost City Road.
Okay, let me correct myself. Hobart Lost City is Grace Hudlin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now the Lost City Road does pick up at the end of Grace Hudlin and
Okay.
goes towards Pegs.
And that's the one, Lost City Road, that I was hopeful that we would at least have started from Hobart and then go
Right.
towards Pegs.
Right.
Because the way and I know where we got the original count was when Lost City School was there.
Right.
And now Lost City School is not there, and so it looks like we're starting from middle to middle, and we're not catching, I mean, we're gonna do a real nice road. We're gonna have a real narrow road coming down to a real nice road, and then go back to a real narrow road, and it's not making any sense to the people out in that community. I mean, it would make sense if you started at Hobart and you go towards Pegs. It makes sense if you come from Pegs and you would come towards Hobart. But it doesn't make sense to start in the middle, not picking up the starting point of Hobart wouldn't be 4 miles, it would be 3 miles. And not picking up the end of Pegs, which is, I think you're gonna leave off 2 miles or maybe 3 miles at that end.
I thought the Lost City Road went closer into Pegs. I'll look and see.
Yeah.
I'll look and
If we
see.
could get a starting, I mean, we're starting in the middle. And of course, my preference is you do the whole thing.
Right.
But if you can't do the whole thing, at least start from Hobart, going that direction. I mean, I would hope that you would do that. And I know we've talked about the count, and I even told people in that area, they're gonna be knocking on your door because they need a count of how many Cherokees are in your home. And we looked, and I think just about everybody on that road, except one, was Cherokee. So we were hopeful, because there's just as many houses in the first 3 miles, I would say, than is in the next 6 miles. There used to be more when the school was there,
Mhm.
but they're not there now because the school is no more. I would think that you would want that count from Hobart, because that's going to be where your greatest count's going to be. Your count's not going to be up on the other end from Pegs back this way, but it will be from Hobart to the 3 mile marker where you're at. We appreciate anything that you can do, but we would appreciate it even more if you would pick up a beginning point, not in the middle,
Okay.
if that's a possibility.
Okay. Well, I'll take a look at it and let you know.
But again, they would appreciate anything you want. And if this Cedar Hollow 1 and 2, is that Pumpkin Hollow?
It's the road that leads down towards Pumpkin Hollow. Yes, ma'am.
Since they're declining their money, bring it over to Lost City. We'll take it. It's all in the same county. Since they didn't, I knew you were having a lot of trouble on that road. So I guess since you've terminated it even, you have reduced it down to 1 mile, so I guess they didn't want it either. So you're gonna have that money. I mean, I know you probably can't redirect it that way, but we would appreciate it, keep it in the same county.
Sure.
If you could.
Okay. we'll take a look at it. I'll let you know something.
All right.
Okay.
And I appreciate the fact that you're looking at, the other 3 roads of Job Corps, Mud Valley, and 4 Mile.
Yes.
That's very much appreciated by those folks. Okay.
David Walkenstick.
Hey, Michael,
Yes, sir.
we're gonna have 100,000 people in Tahlequah here in a couple of weeks for the holiday. And the softball fields is a main attraction there. And we were kind of discussing over lunch the other day about some entrances to the fields. And with that heavy of traffic coming through there, and I know the one entrance is up there where the softball field is, the Sequoia softball field, and that's right on top of a hill where there's going to be traffic going in both directions. And I just don't want to get into a predicament where there's wrecks going all over because of the construction going on. Have you guys thought about some alternative routes? I know we have some in place right now, and I don't know if those are or if those are going to work or not. Do you kind of see what I'm saying?
Well, I do. I hope by this time Cherokee National Holiday gets here that main drive entrance to Sequoia High School will be open by then.
Is that what you guys are shooting for?
We're shooting to get it open this week.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But weather-wise, they've had some weather holdups the past couple weeks. I know last week I think they had about a day that they lost, 2 half days I think that they lost because of rain. But yeah, they're hoping to pave either today or tomorrow.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, it's not going to be a problem then.
Right. The contractor's aware of the holiday coming up. We've had discussions with them, and they know that.
Now, are the lights going to be installed by then, or just
No,
it's
sir.
just the entrance?
Just the entrance.
Okay.
They'll still, once the entrance is done, they'll still be doing work along US 62, but they won't be working anymore for a while on the intersection. They'll have one layer, what we call one lift of asphalt down on the
And they'll
intersection.
be able to use that.
I
said
But they will be able to use that.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, that's all. Thank you, Chair.
I don't mean to be out of turn, but I thought he was going to ask about something else. Can I ask that? Could I?
Yeah, I yield to you.
We gave money to fix the road to the powwow grounds. Is that, do you think that's going to be done in time for the holiday?
I talked to Commissioner Martin about that, I think, 2 weeks ago. He's starting to backfill then. I need to drive back there and see what's going on, but
Yeah, because if we don't have that done, that's going to close that road to the powwow grounds at least one way. So that's very critical that we get it done too.
that's almost more critical than the other. But yeah, I know he's also aware of the holiday coming up, so we'll stay on top of him with that.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, I'd like to yield to Councilman Byrd as well. I yield the time. I'm going to yield to Councilman Byrd.
Good to have you here, Michael.
Thank you, sir.
Let's
Good to
see
be here.
what question I can come up with now. I've got the floor. No, so what are we looking at here on that back side there by the golf course, Sequoia? I think that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, the box is completed,
Yes.
and he was starting the backfill process, and I think if I remember what he told me correctly, I think he's going to go back with concrete versus asphalt, so they won't, which would be actually better. You won't have the dip that will sometimes occur when you place asphalt over a newly constructed box.
So you feel good that we're going to have that road available?
From speaking, last time I spoke to him, yes, I do feel good about it.
Good. Well, if you feel good, then I feel pretty good.
Good deal.
Because that's got to be a must, or it's going to be chaos.
It will be,
Yes,
most definitely.
okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Councilor Walkenstead. Thank you,
Thanks,
Mr.
Chair.
Chairman.
That's it.
We'll be four-wheeling if that's not fixed.
That's right.
Curtis?
Or a beetle.
Michael, on those new roads, our roads, we talked about a little bit about the right-of-ways. They go back to the counties,
That's correct. After the project is completed, yes, sir.
Then how much of that right-of-way are they responsible for?
They're responsible for all of it, fence to fence, technically. That right-of-way is in the county's name. It's not in Cherokee Nation's name.
So how do we go about it? I'd mentioned that to our county commissioner. He said, well, I can brush off what I can get off the highway. Like what little I can, couple 3 foot. He said, I don't have the equipment to get up there and brush hog it with. So I think we're gonna have some problems there. We already got problems that we need to solve, probably natural resources. He's spraying the sprouts that's coming up, undergrowth. We've got a lot down the Daytown Road, that's, good heavens, 10 foot tall now. But I'll get with GV about that, you know.
Okay.
Then we're gonna quit. Anyway, do we need to contact the county, or they know they're responsible?
They should know they were responsible. If we need to contact them, we'd be glad to. But they should know that that is their responsibility.
We have the Dry Creek Road, the Twin Oaks Road, and the Kenwood to Uchi Road.
Right.
So there's a lot of cleaning somebody needs to be doing. So we'll, I guess, talk about that, get with natural resources and see what we can get together.
Okay. Sounds good.
Holler back to you.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you.
Don Garvin.
Thank you. We'll get back to that brown beetle. Is that what it's called, brown beetle?
American burrowing beetle.
Is there any way we could look at it?
Actually, it's bearing, I think.
You see him?
I can email you a picture. That would.
We can't see him live.
No, I'd be afraid you'd step on him.
You're not sure they getting that confused with a tumblebug, are you?
They know what they're doing. I'm pretty certain it's an ABB.
Tumblebugs. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Early?
Michael, over on the Industrial Park Road, is Stillwell. What are we doing going there? Are we just gonna go straight through the park, is that?
It'll go from 59 to all the way to Cherry Tree Road. About roughly half of the project will be concrete, doweled concrete pavement, and then the half on the western side going to Cherry Tree is going to be an asphalt overlay. And we did that for cost purposes. We didn't see a whole lot of, we talked to folks within the tribe and didn't see a lot of activities moving in, so to speak, industry moving in on the west side. Really don't see much moving in general, but we did want to prepare for it going from 59 west towards the middle.
I think it needs to be done. The other question I had is, and you might have heard me ask Ron on the transit settlement. Have we moved on that, or got a settlement on it?
There's been no settlement, no agreement reached. We had a conference call scheduled a week ago today. Some participants on the call ended up not being available to be on the call. We talked about it and trying to get it rescheduled, and hope to hear something back from the Attorney General's office on the reschedule this week.
And what was the total amount on that money? Like 500,000?
There's 3 tiers, tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. The tier 3 is the contentious one, and there's 2 years of that of the funding, FY13 and FY14 funding, that are tied up because of this. Total is about 600,000 on both those tiers, or that tier 2 years combined. But they have not released tiers 1 and tier 2 to us. So both years combined, all combined, is about 1.1, 1.2 million.
And are we, who's drawing interest on the 1.2 million?
Not Cherokee Nation.
So are we gonna ask for the interest money on that?
That's
Federal Highway or Bureau?
Federal Transit Administration. So interest has not been brought up. So it's something we can certainly bring up, but it's not been discussed.
The other question is on the J Clinic Road. That clinic is scheduled to be finished in March of 2015. And is that on the schedule? Is that on the RR schedule now? On the inventory, let me rephrase the question.
I believe that it is. It seemed like we looked at it and it was.
Because the reason I'm asking those questions is, and I don't know about Councilor Lay's district up there, but those heavy trucks coming in there with concrete and steel, those roads are going to be tore up. I'm wondering if we could look at that as far as putting on the priority and move it up as a priority at some point in time, whenever we get to that stage.
Okay. When did you say construction's anticipated to be complete?
15, March of 15 is when it's scheduled to be done, but I look for it to be done maybe in the summer, something like that.
Okay.
Anyway, they've already tore the road up somewhat on the backside of it. Running those large trucks across the road, they mashed it in and they cut it, so. Anyway, just something to put on your radar screen, think about that and see if we can do that. If I remember right, I think if we need to do that, this committee may can do that on the roads committee members and move those priorities up as far as the short projects. So we may be able to look at that if we can't get it in the scheduled time. But anyway, I just want to put that on your radar.
Okay.
Screen.
Very good.
We'll be bringing it back forward.
Okay.
Tears it up that much more.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else? Kara, go ahead.
Thank you. Michael Lynn, could you explain to me, is there some funding, somebody asked a question and I couldn't answer. Is there road money or something that's tied up with UKB that we've got apportioned out there, or?
Just what Councilor Buzzard was referring to, which is the transit money. Well, it's not road money, it's transit, Federal Transit Administration funding.
And that is the 50%, if I understood. Did I hear that right?
That's what they are requesting, is half of the allocation.
This happened about a year ago.
Yeah, about a year ago is when it started, yes ma'am.
And now I'm, okay, thank you. Thanks, Harley and Michael.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Michael, the turnoff on at the Ocean Clinic from Bartlesville, have you had any chance to talk to anybody about it?
I've visited with, I've sent an email to ODOT. I haven't got a response, to be honest with you. But I know it's something you'd like to see happen. I'll try to see what I can get going.
Thank you. Anyone else?
One more. Michael, Coffee Hollow Road,
Yes, sir.
one goes west about a mile. Check that out and see what that would take for the assessment, would you please?
Yes. Is it the one that we talked about on the phone, or Coffee Hollow headed north from Sequoia?
It'd be, you go from Sequoia, Coffee Hollow Road.
Okay, okay.
And then it'll go back west.
I said west, I meant north from Sequoia.
You'll go north, then west.
Okay,
Yes.
gotcha.
Or you just wanting to go all the way to Stick Ross?
No. It goes, if you leave Sequoia, you go to the first stop sign. It'll go west. And there's a little, probably stretch there. What is it, quarter of a mile maybe?
Probably quarter to a half.
Yeah, then it goes back on Stick Ross. Yes. It's about a quarter of a mile.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Michael, on the CNI or the Industrial Park Road, do you have any idea when they'll start construction, or?
No, I don't have an exact date, no, but we're looking at probably, we'll open bids at the end of August. We're probably looking at mid to late September. Probably late September, early October, really.
Thank you.
But,
Thank you, Michael.
yes, thank you.
Good job. Hannah Knight?
Well, I'm not Anna, but I'll sit in for her today. I'm Shay Smith. Anna was unable to be here this afternoon. You have a copy of our report, and I'd be happy to answer any of the questions you may have about it. Before I go on, I'll kind of pause there. Any questions?
One question. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was trying to make sure I read the report. So on MAP, we've helped 181 program. That doesn't sound right though, because I thought we'd help more. What's the 181 and what's the 133?
Okay. On number one, the 181 people, there's 181 applications in the pipeline right now in various stages of processing. So people have applied for mortgage assistance, but they've not yet been deemed eligible.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's in queue.
In queue, right. And then 133 people have actually received mortgage assistance and purchased a home this fiscal year.
Fiscal year today.
Fiscal year today, right, through the end of July.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention there are a couple of things that will make it a little easier for people to start obtaining mortgages in the fall. FICO has changed their scoring module, and so right now a lot of times people will have medical collections, medical debt. Typically, a mortgage lender doesn't look at that debt. They won't count it against an individual as far as calculating debt to income and determining their eligibility for a mortgage. But the reason that medical collection makes a difference is because it can lower an individual's credit score. So in the fall, FICO is going to change their scoring module, and they will not count medical debt collection into the scoring module. So it's not going to make a huge difference for individuals, but if an individual only had medical collections on their debt or on their credit history, the maximum amount of their credit score increase would be like 25 points. It's not a huge increase, but any little bit can help when you're kind of on the border. And then the other thing that FICO is doing is right now when there are collections reported on an individual's credit report, those are reported for 7 years from the date of last activity. So an individual may have paid off a collection 2 years ago. It still shows on their credit report as a collection. It reports that it was showed off, but it still impacts their credit score. So in the fall, that will change. The collection will still be reported, but it will not be calculated in the FICO score. So it's a little bit of positive news in the credit industry, which we don't hear very often, so we're kind of excited about that. So just wanted to point that out. It will make it a little easier for individuals to obtain mortgages.
Harley?
Shay, this question I'm going to ask is kind of a question that housing has changed so much in the last 6 months or a year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you guys have the mortgage assistance program. Gary still has Title VI program, 184 programs. What I'm getting at is, do you have a list of the mortgage assistance houses that have been foreclosed on?
Yes, we do.
What about Title VI? Do you have that? Or
Gary would have the Title VI list.
I wonder, and I don't know if the other council would be interested in those houses that's been foreclosed on, but I would like to have a list of those in my district, District 10.
Okay.
Because I've had some people ask me, well, how do I go about getting a house, or who do I see? And I don't really know if it's a mortgage assistance program home, or a Title VI home, or what it is. So, and then you can release that data for when they can foreclosure, I suppose.
Sure, and it's going to be a little different. For Title VI, they would obviously be able to go through Gary to see about purchasing the home. Now, for a mortgage assistance house, there's always a first mortgage holder in place, and we rarely end up with the home in the case of a foreclosure. So they would have to work through the original mortgager, or they could go to the auction or something like that. We really wouldn't have any influence over who was able to purchase
But I could get a
it.
list of those houses.
Absolutely.
I'd like to have a list for District 10
Okay, those that are still active,
that are in foreclosure.
okay, we can do that. And I'm sorry, I'm speaking for mortgage assistance. I'm not speaking
Right, I
for Gary, but, okay.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
No old business pending, new business, Harley Buzzard.
I've had some discussion with David Pruitt on the rehab emergencies, and had some other discussions. And last time we were here, we talked about trying to up that by $10,000. And what I understand, since these are federal funds, that we just can't go in and make that policy change through the council or through a committee. We have asked David or Ron, the housing department, to do a waiver on that, to go from 5 to 10,000. And those waivers sometimes can take months and probably was going to get denied anyway. I know in the roads program, we have asked for some waivers and never got it. So we probably won't get this into the housing authority or through the HUD. So I'm going to ask David to come up and give us an update on where we are on rehab. We may not need it. I've talked to David offline here, and he's told me a few things that sounds encouraging. And I just want to remind the committee, there are some travel dollars in that program that can be used without going through the environmental programs and speed this thing up, and that's probably what David has done. So, David, if you'll give us an update, I'm thinking about maybe just withdrawing the motion.
We're still currently taking in approximately 100 approved applications per month. That's a pretty good workload. We have 4 new contractors that are bidding on jobs or have been awarded jobs. We're working with Career Services. They have furnished some carpenters for us, and we've assigned 4 inspectors to those carpenters to make four new crews. We're also working with Career Services to get us an HVAC person certified. We're hoping to send them to class at the Botec here in Tahlequah, hopefully starting in October. Staying really busy.
So just to ask a question with David, over the meeting last month, how much have you increased your production by over a month?
Last month, the month before, we completed, I think it was 28 jobs. Last month, we completed 60 jobs. This month, we hope to exceed that. And I think we will pretty easily.
With that being said, Mr. Chair, I'm going to withdraw a motion or anything that I had on the floor for this at this time. Withdraw that. And it seemed like David has went back and revamped his program to where he's getting more production now. So I don't see a need to carry this any further. Although I do want us to keep in mind, there's some dollars left in there from tribal dollars. And if it need be, we want to come back to this committee and maybe up that amount from 5,000 to 10,000 with tribal funds. But this time, I'm not going to make that recommendation to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, on the, another new item, Kara?
Mr. Chairman, I have not had the opportunity to work with our tribal council attorney and some others, so I'd ask to table this for 1 month. So I make that in the form of a motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Table for 1 month. Any announcements? Okay. Next meeting, Monday, August 15th, 2 p.m. Whoops.
September 15th.
This is August. Okay, September 15th, 2 p.m. I'll take a motion for adjournment.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Adjourned.